Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bunjitaha Magridaha Kashishviddanam Kurvani Vaha Karmani Jajiva Chekchatam Samaha Evam Twayi Nanyate Tostina Karma Lipyate Nare. Asurya namate loka andena tamasavritaha tamste pritya bigachanti yeke chat mahano janaha. Asurya namate loka andena tamasavritaha tamste pritya bigachanti yeke chat mahano janaha. Anijadika manaso javiyo nena devam apurvam purvam asat tadavato jnanateti tistat tasmin apumata visvedadati. Tadijati tannejati tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya bhayataha. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupasyati sarvabhutesu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha tatra ko mohakaha soka ekatvam anupasyataha. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijanataha tatra ko mohakaha soka ekatvam anupasyataha. Sa prayagachchukamakayam avranam asnaviram sudam apapavidam Kavir manisi paribu swayambhu yata tat yutoratan vyadadat chasvatipyaha samabhyaha. Antam tamaha pavisanti ye vidyamupasyate tato bhuyavate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. Anya devahur vidyaya anya dahura vidyaya iti susrumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire. Vidyam cha yas yastad vedubhayam saha avidyayam ritum tidva vidyayam ritam asnute. Andham tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasyate tato bhuyavate tamo yayu sambhutam rataha. Anya devahur sambhavat anya dahura sambhavat iti susmumadiranam yenastad vichachakshire. Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedubhayam saha vinasena militum tirtva sambhutam ritamasnute. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukam tatvam pusam pavrinu satyadharma hidristaye. Pusanika seyama surya prajapatya vyuharasmin samahatejo yate rupam kayana tayana tate pasyami yo savaso purushaha sahamasmi. Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sariram om kratos smara kritam smara kratos smara kritam smara vayanatamam tatepasya vayanatamam tatepasya. Om Agnenaya Supataraya Swan Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yuhodajmas Juhuranameno Buyistam Tenama Uktim Vedema Om Tat Sat. Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Isopanisad ki jai. Yesterday we did mantra 12. We haven't finished. Okay. Right. Okay. The mantra 12 says, Andham tamaha pravisanti ye sambhuti mupasyate tato bhuya vite tamo ya yusambutam rataha. Tasmai ekana manasa Bhagavan. Andham, ignorance, tama, darkness, pravisanti, enter into, ye, those who, asambhutim, demigods, upasate, worship, tata, then that, bhuya, still more, eva, like that, te, those, tama, darkness, ye, who, you, also, sambhutyam, in the absolute, rataha, engaged. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. Let's repeat. Those who are engaged in the worship of the demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. So yesterday we discussed 7 great sages who their, let's say, disqualification from understanding Krishna in full is the fact that they are still influenced by the modes of material nature. Now you would say, wait a minute, they're supposed to be the great sages, or let's say greatest sages in the universe. How is this possible? Right? Well, it's possible in this sense. They are almost on a level of demigods themselves. Some of them are close to being demigods themselves, like Vasishtha Muni. Right? He's not exactly a demigod, but they're very elevated. Now, the demigods themselves are influenced by the modes of material nature, and the sages, even though they're elevated personalities, if they have even the slightest self-interest, they're influenced by the modes of material nature. And it's very possible that they can be. Just because they're great or greatest sages in the universe doesn't mean they are transcendentally situated. Transcendentally situated means one is totally attached to Krishna and Krishna's worship, right? Or Krishna or Narayana or Vishnu or Rama. The sages are experts in Vedic knowledge, but unless one is engaged 24 hours a day in Krishna's service, even though they're expert in Vedic knowledge, they're still not free of the modes of material nature. So it's very possible that they do not understand, pure devotional service. Yeah.
The current Manvantara's Saptarishis, we have Atri Muni who has met Ram and Sita and Lakshman. Vashishta Muni, he coached Ram Parivar. Kashyapa Muni, he is the ancestor of Lord Ram. Gautama Muni has met Lord Ram. Bharadwaja Muni has met him twice. Vishwamitra facilitated the marriage of Ram and Sita. And Jamdagni, he is the father of Parashuram. So all of them are, aren't they somewhat transcendently situated? Because they have met the Lord, they have interacted personally with him.
Yeah, they're extremely elevated. But you have, also Duryodhana met Krishna often. Dhritarashtra met Krishna. All those people were associating with Krishna also.
But Duryodhana had an enmity towards the Lord. All of them loved the Lord.
Well, like I said, even the slightest attachment would disqualify a person. It could be attachment to family, it could be attachment to knowledge, it could be attachment to so many different things. Would disqualify a person from being transcendentally situated. That doesn't mean they have no knowledge of Krishna. Or it doesn't even mean that they have no association with Krishna or Ram. But see, this is saying here, those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter in the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal Absolute. Now the next words, Name Vidu Suragana Prabhavanam Maharsinam Ahamadir Hidevanam Maharsinam Chatarvasahab. So, neither the host of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulence. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and the sages. So, sometimes demigods, they don't recognize Krishna.
Example, Indra in Govardhan.
That's Indra, is one. Yeah. Brahma also. Yeah. And now it says the great sages also. So, in other words, even though one may be expert in Vedas, expert in logic and argument and so forth, it's not a qualification to know Krishna. So the great sages are experts in Vedic knowledge, and Krishna is to be known through the Vedas. So you would expect them to be perfectly knowledgeable. But the drawback is that usually at one point or other they might engage in speculation about the Lord, and that would disqualify them from knowing everything about the Lord. So Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. Yeah.
Doesn't the thought cancer say that Shambhu is the greatest Vaishnava? So Lord Shiva is a demigod, but isn't he considered to be one of the greatest Vaishnavas? I mean, it's mostly
Yeah. Yes, definitely. But he also gets bewildered by Mohini Murti, chases after her. He fights against Krishna. He's supporting Bhaumasura Abanasura, and he fights against Krishna on the battlefield. So there are different situations that come up because even Lord Shiva is slightly tinged by the mode of ignorance. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita also. Yeah, but no, but no, in the Bhagavad Gita, I'll show you where it says that. Okay, it's chapter 7, verse number 14. In the last paragraph, it says, although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on a level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajoguna, passion, and Tamoguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya, therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, where freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti padata sarvesham Vishnu eva nasamsaya. There's no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. So, and what is this verse? Well, this verse from Bhagavad Gita says, neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulence. So, if Lord Shiva is slightly tinged by mode of ignorance and Brahma by mode of passion, what about the great sages? And these are the top devatas. And then the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they're even in more ignorance because they speculate using negation to arrive at what the truth is. So if you negate everything material, whatever you end up with is a function of what you negate. So you end up with the opposite of material nature, which is the unmanifest material nature. You don't end up with Krishna by that process of negation. And here he says, definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Such negative definitions lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such negative qualities are simply the reversals of relative material qualities and are therefore also relative. So if everything you're negating is relative, then what you end up with is also relative. It's a function of what you negate. You don't end up with something positive or absolute. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the utmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God, known as Brahman, but one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So, the drawback of the Jnanis is they become attached to their brilliance in logic and Vedic knowledge. Just like there was once 3 Brahmins, and they were walking in Siberia, and they encountered a frozen, no, not Siberia, I'm sorry. They encountered the bones of a dead lion. So the first one said, I can reconstruct the body of the lion, even though it's dead and just bones, but I know the mantras to do it. And the second one said, well, if you can do that, I have the mantra by which I can put a soul back into the body of the lion. And the third one said, well, while you're doing that, I'm going to climb the tree and see what happens. So the first one did what he said. The second one did what he said. Lion came alive, and he was hungry. He killed the 2 Brahmins. But he couldn't get the third one because he was up in a tree. So this is the problem of being very brilliant, right? You do things that are miraculous, but ultimately it's self-destructive, And that's why it says in the mantra that those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. And then Prabhupada says, the dependent demigods and the great sages imperfectly consider Krishna, or him, to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him and their unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person, and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. So the real sign or quality that one has transcendental knowledge is they're fully engaged in the service of the Lord. So let's look at Vasistha Muni and compare him to Hanuman. Is there a difference?
Yes.
What is the difference?
Vasistha Muni he did guide Ram, and he did give him basic knowledge of it. So he did serve the Lord as a teacher. When Hanuman joined Ram and Sita together, there is no comparison to Hanuman.
So you see, there is a difference. There's a major difference. Hanuman was totally engaged in the service of Ram. Not partially, not occasionally, not intensely for one period and not in another period. He was totally, yeah. So that's what he's saying here. That, but the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him and their unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto him, unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. So therefore, if we go to the verse 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate timatva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. It says that Krishna says about himself, and I am the source of everything material and spiritual. And those persons who know this in truth engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So, Hanuman fits that description right there. He engages in devotional service and worships Ram with all his heart. In fact, there's a picture of Hanuman opening his chest, and there's Sita and Ram in his heart, right? So, yeah. Yes. Yes. It's an obstacle. Yeah. Exactly right. That's why Lord Chaitanya says, Na danam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadishya mama. Mama janmani janmani srere, bhavatad bhakti. I don't want any amount of money. I don't want any other followers or disciples or family members. I don't want to have any victims for my sense gratification. I don't want liberation. I simply want your service, life after life, Krishna. So, that's the difference right there. Yeah.
Krishna as a mother.
Yeah.
Even he lifted the Govardhan hill, then also she considered her as a child only.
Yes. Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas, everything. Krishna, So it's a little boy and he's lifting it up. Well, let's help him. So they put their canes up also like this to help him lift the mountain. So you see, huh? Yeah, and that they should help Krishna because it's such a little boy. He might get tired, lifting up the mountain on his little pinky, right? So there's okay, now, do they know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. But they simply love him. They simply love him. And so it fits that description. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. They don't really care he's the Supreme Personality of God because they completely love him. Right. Okay. And then, look at Hanuman, sometimes it looks like he's saving Ram's life. And sometimes he's carrying Sita and Ram, So, he's there 100% serving the Lord. Right. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that only unintelligent, bewildered persons, driven by a strong desire for sense gratification, worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Since the living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. So, notice what he's saying here. Since the living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. Sri Isopanisad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshiping the dependent demigods who can bestow only temporary benefit. So the example is given. Let's say you have a boil on your hand here and it's really hot and burning, right, and hurting. So if you go like this, well, when you blow a little cool air over it, it sort of feels like it's a little relief, But as soon as you stop blowing on it, it's back again. So that's the whole idea. Worshipping the demigods, you're only going to get some temporary relief. You're not going to get any real relief. So why waste your time on getting temporary relief? Better work for complete relief, complete release. So rather, we must worship the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking us back home, back to Godhead. So everyone that's worshiping the demigods are actually cheating themselves. And they're not really serving the demigods in their best interest, because demigods themselves know that they can't give liberation. They can give a lot of other things, but all those other things simply keep us entangled in the material world. It doesn't. Yeah. In fact, there's an important verse in the 9th chapter that says that aham hi sarva bhutan yagyanam bhuktacha prabhu evacha na tumam abhijananti tatvinatas chivanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. This is 9:24. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord Krishna. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying yajna, or Krishna. Yajnartat karmano nyatra lokamam karma bandhanai tadaratam karma konteya muktasanga samachara. So all sacrifices should be done for the pleasure of the Lord. Otherwise, one becomes entrapped in the karma band. Any other thing Like if you're offering sacrifices to the demigods, you get caught in karma bandh, the entanglement of karma. Let's say you chant the Lalita Sahasrananam, right? That's meant for Durga Mata, right? So you get caught in the cycle of birth and death by doing that. In fact, all kirtans are meant uniquely for Krishna. There's no such thing in the Vedas of Kali Kirtan. There's no such thing. It's something that's been manufactured. Kirtan is uniquely for glorifying Vishnu or Krishna or Ram. It's not meant for any other personality. Right. So there's Lalita Sahasranam, Sotram, or the Devi, Sotrams and all these things. They're not actually bona fide. The Lalita?
Yeah, the Lalita Sahasranam. However, I'm a very strict Valmiki Ramayana follower, so I do realize that some people might believe in the potency of Lalita Sahasranam, even though I'm not personally convinced of it.
Yeah, but no, you can recite it,
Right.
but it'll just keep you entangled in the material world.
That's just it, I'm not personally convinced.
Yeah. I mean, you have to see, the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita, and actually all the Vedas, is to defeat any idea of mundaneness in Krishna or Ram. Right? Any concept of mundaneness about the personality of Krishna is wrong. And it'll keep a person entangled in material nature. But once you accept, that's where it says, Janma karma chame divyam ivam yo veti tatvata tyakvadeham punar janma naitimam eti sarjana. Anyone who knows the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities, his janma and karma, does not, upon approaching death, take birth again, but goes right back to Godhead. This is how powerful transcendental knowledge of Krishna is. 4th chapter, 9th verse. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And therefore Prabhupada says, the one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita, personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the Personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly. And consequently, his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. See how it's all related now. Tam eva vidit vati mrityum eti nanyapanta vidyate yanayana. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's no other way to achieve this perfection. Svatasvatara Upanishad 3:8. So that's what we just read, wasn't it? We mentioned it. It was mentioned here. Was it mentioned here in the Isopanisad? Or was it in the Bhagavad Gita? What? No. Okay. No, we just read that Tom. Okay. I mentioned 924, and before that, what did I mention?
You mentioned 10:8.
Yeah, 10:8. 10:8. That's it. Yes. So 10:8, it should be in the purport. Let's see where it is. No. I must have mentioned something else before that.
7:14.
Let's see, 7:14. No. No. Okay, 1 second. Just 1 second. I'll find it. No, I read that. It's the 3rd chapter. I read about Lord Shiva. Right? Huh? Which verse was it? 3rd chapter. Okay, 1 second. Retrace our tracks here. That's why it's good for you to take notes. That way we can immediately retrace our tracks here. Yeah. The Vedas, Svatasvatara Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase Tam Eva Viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Well, that same verse is quoted in the 4th chapter, 9th verse, in the purport, where it says, anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tameva viditvati mrityum eti nanyapanta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's no other way to achieve this perfection. Svatasvatara Upanishad 3.8. Okay, interesting. So that's the 3rd chapter. Yeah, 4th chapter, 9th verse. Okay, that's a good question, and the answer is the following. 1 second. The disciple is supposed to know everything. So Prabhupada was asked that question. What does that mean, this disciple should know everything? Prabhupada said he should know everything his guru knows. So because Prabhupada has read all the literature of his guru, and his guru was the top Vedic scholar in all of India 100 years ago, or 80 years ago. Therefore, by reading everything his guru wrote, he understood all these references from the Vedas. Yeah. So when it means that the disciple should know everything, it means he should know everything his guru knows. So what is the essential knowledge to know? That that the Vaishnava gurus are teaching, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that he is Saprayaga Chukram Akayam Avranam. So Shukram and Akayam, Avranam, and so forth. That means that he is transcendental to the modes of material nature. His body and soul are non-different. His senses can do, any one of his senses can do the same function as any of the other senses, and that he's never born, right? He's the greatest of all. No one is equal to or greater than him, and so forth. So, once you know all these things, or as it says here, anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the supreme, and who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly. So, when Brahma thinks maybe the Lord, maybe this little boy appearing in Vrindavan, he's God, but I'm going to see that he's God. I want to see, so I'll test him. Right? See, now, Mother Nasoda never says, I want to test to see if my little boy is God. It never says anything like that, right? It doesn't care. She just loves him. But Brahma tries. He what? Yeah. Well, he wants to see the Lord, but the idea is testing the Lord. You see, that's the difference. That means he's not like insulting the Lord, but he doesn't really understand the potency of the Lord, and he's a little bit puffed up about his own potency. So he tested the Lord by trying to take all the cows and cowherd boys away from him, thinking that he would interfere with the Lord's pastime. But then he comes back and he sees they're still there, and he can't understand. Well, no, as Brahma. So, it's possible. See, the demigods cannot understand the inconceivable power of the Lord, but devotees can, by faith, by accepting the Vedic statements on faith. So when Krishna says that he is the source of everything, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, well, that's another definition of God. He's the source of everything. He says, Matak Paratarannan Yat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. Everything in material and spiritual come from me. So that's the definition of God. Everything comes from him. See? The material world, the living entities, the Paramatma expansions, the Vishnu expansions, the Narayana expansions, all the avatars, Ete Chamsa Kalak Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swami. It all comes from him. These are all the definitions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's nothing relative. It's all absolute. His name and he himself are non-different. When you chant the name of Krishna, you're directly associating with the Lord. That's because he's absolute. And he's perfect and complete. Everything that comes from him is also perfect and complete. No one can equal that. See? Yeah.
We're talking about the people who test the potency of the Lord. So Sugriva asked Ram to go through 2 different tests to ensure that he's capable of being one. So Sugriva was also kind of on the lower level of a devotee, right? Because he did not instantaneously understand the potency of the Lord.
Yeah.
Would you say that? If you ask him to throw the skeleton of Gunduli and to pierce an arrow for each solitary. So, Ram obviously does an incredible job of doing the.
Well, he also had to break the bow in the Swayamvar. Yeah.
That's a different aspect. But Supreme, he poses those tests because he was of a lower level of understanding.
Yeah. He's a monkey. Yeah. So, you see what's being said here. If you simply understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead on faith, based on the Vedic statements, and there's no doubt in your mind about it. And because of that, you engage in a service. You are liberated. You're guaranteed liberation from birth and death. Okay. But if you say, well, Krishna is God, and this guy that lives next door to me, my neighbor, he's also God. Well, that's a bunch of nonsense, right? But there are people like that, they say crazy things. In other words, they want to cover all their bases. So they say, yeah, I believe Krishna is the supreme God. And my neighbor also is God, right? So that doesn't work. Because you can't, as it says in the Bible, you can't serve God and Mammon at the same time. Mammon means the devil, right? So if you say, Krishna is the supreme God and my neighbor is God, well, which one are you serving, right? Well, you're not serving either one, right? You're just talking nonsense, right? So therefore, we have to be very careful. This is absolute. So if you believe Krishna is the absolute supreme personality of God, then you'll be absolutely and completely engaged in Krishna's service with no other interest in life than pleasing the Lord 24 hours a day. And that's the sign of liberation. And there's no discouragement, there's no quitting because, someone said something that hurt my feelings. There's none of that nonsense, right? But this is where it's all aiming for, and so on that platform, there's no trace of material qualities, and therefore that platform is called Nirguna. On the Nirguna platform, there's never a clash over the object of enjoyment. Here in the material world, there's always a clash between different individual beings because here, the proper center of enjoyment is missed. The real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who's the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. We're all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest, and as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, moha, or lamentation, sukha. This is Isopanisad 7th, mantra 7. So this is the real explanation of oneness with the Lord. And he's the center of the Rasa Lila, and everyone's focused on him, and they're dancing around him, right? And there's no clash. It's not that my center is here and your center is there. Well, if your center is here, my center is there, there's going to be a clash. There's going to be intersecting circles of interest. But if there's only one focal point of the circle of interest, that's to please Krishna. Now your ability to please Krishna might be bigger than mine, but we're all trying to please him to our maximum, and we're all cooperating together without clashing. And so if you please Krishna, I'm happy. If I please Krishna, you're happy. Because that's what our interest is, you see. So there's no more of this clash. But if your interest is different than mine, then at one point we're going to have intersecting circles of interest, and then there's going to be a fight. Just like, does Israel belong to the Jews, or does it belong to the Palestinians? They both claim the same land. Now, has their fight ever stopped? No. It gets worse and worse. Never stops. Because they both want the same thing at the same time for different reasons. That's the material world. But if they both wanted Krishna, then they wouldn't be fighting anymore. But one wants Israel to be in a certain way, and the other one wants Palestine to be in another way. And they're killing each other. And there's no resolution of the fight in sight, because their point of interest is different. And this in any controversy, it's the same. The point of interest is different, therefore they're fighting for limited material resources. One person wants to use it this way, other person wants to use it that way. But if they both wanted to use it for the pleasure of Krishna, there wouldn't be a fight. Okay, and so yesterday we stopped at this point, page 87. The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Isopanisad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo-worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo-religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the garb of worshiping the Lord. The atheists and the impersonalists lead such foolish pseudo-religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. See, now, cult means something religious, right? So he's talking about the cult of atheism. So now in America they have atheist churches. Did you know that? Yeah. Did you read about that? Yeah, you heard from me. You can look it up. Look it up. Atheist church on the internet. I don't know. No. These are hardcore atheists, and they have religious atheist, rites. Instead of reading the Bible, they read Richard Hawkins. If you ever heard of him, he's like #1 atheist in England. So we're reading Bhagavad Gita. They're reading Richard Hawkins, all about how the God doesn't exist, and they support each other in their atheism. Is it?
King County has a couple of atheists.
Yeah, of course. King County, What's it say about the atheist church?
This is the thing that I've been looking for, which is a church without religion.
Exactly. Without God, that's what he means.
It's a celebration of life.
He doesn't know God is everywhere.
Huh?
He doesn't know God is everywhere. Yeah.
They have no knowledge of God. Okay?
The motto is live better, help often, and wonder more.
Yes. Actually, it should be wander more in ignorance of darkness. So there's Prabhupada talks of the pseudo-religionists are going to the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheist directly denies the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. So the impersonalists are also atheists, because they say God is not a person. Right? So the atheists, they say, they directly deny the existence of God, and the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantra in Sri Isopanisad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons. And if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance, arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth. The ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturers of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe because they mislead those who follow them. So misleading someone with wrong information is actually sinful. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of the Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. So, here you have an atheist church, and you have a priest, right? And he's preaching, that there's no God. And they're glorifying, they're supporting people to believe that there's no God. So, that knowledge that he has is more dangerous than ignorance itself. Why is it more dangerous than ignorance? Well, ignorance means you don't know something. But having false knowledge and teaching it to others is indoctrinating people with atheism. That means they'll go their whole life with that misconception. Whereas someone who's ignorant, they can be educated. But someone who is fed misconceptions as the truth, and they have faith in it, and they have support in believing it. Why did they go to that church?
Because they wanted a church without religion.
And what else did they say?
Live better and want to move.
No, it's a celebration of atheism. Right? They're celebrating it. Right. Well, but they believe in that God doesn't exist. That's another belief, isn't it? And they're supporting each other. So that means they can go a whole lifetime, and many, many lifetimes, with that misconception. Therefore, it's more dangerous than ignorance. And it says, the impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods according to the scriptural recommendations. Yeah, so you have people like that. They worship Shiva by offering him charas, the chillum. The chillum is a pipe for smoking marijuana. So they have a ceremony before they smoke. Yeah, and they say, Om Namo Shivaya Namaha. And then they get, their brain gets illumined.
Hey, nice job. You blew out your nose.
I know, I know. He knows because he's done that.
Yeah, with a real Nagasadu.
You're right. So this is worse than ignorance. This is worse than ignorance, more dangerous than ignorance, because they make it like a religious cult of offering ganja to Lord Shiva, as if it's going to be purified by offering it to Lord Shiva. And by the way, Lord Shiva does not smoke ganja. And Mother Kali does not eat meat. But the people around them do. See, they don't accept it themselves, but they give it to the people around them, Yeah, the ghosts, are around Lord Shiva, and the demons are around Kali Ma. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshiping demigods under certain circumstances, but at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.23, it is clearly stated that the results derived from worshiping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is, how to obtain real and permanent life? In other words, what do people ask Mother Durga for? Material things. Give me a good body, give me a good wife or husband, give me money, give me fame, give me this, give me that, right? All those things are impermanent, and getting them only increases the lifetimes that you stay in the material world. It's not really beneficial. The Lord states that as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is the one and only way to approach the personality of Godhead, one attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In other words, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends on the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. In other words, you don't have to get knowledge. You don't have to say, well, first I'll get the knowledge, then I'll practice vairagya, detachment, and then I'll understand Krishna. No. You simply engage in the service of Krishna, and knowledge and detachment come along with it as a natural sequence. They're byproducts of the service. These are all misconceptions people have. First I'll get the knowledge, then I'll get renunciation, and then I'll get Krishna. No. This is the famous theory of the Arya Samaj. I call it the Arya Hodgepodge. You know. First you have to study Sanskrit alphabet. Then you have to study Sanskrit grammar. Then you have to study Sanskrit context. Then you have to study how to do yagyas. Then you have to study this. Then you have to study it. And after a long list of things you have to study that takes a lifetime, then you might be realized. You know, it's a bunch of nonsense. If none of us would be involved in Krishna consciousness if those were the rules. You know, first of all, it takes 12 years to master the Sanskrit language. And even after that, it's not sure that you mastered it, right? And then grammar and all that stuff and context, and you know, that eliminates almost everyone. And that's why those movements that insist on these things, there are very few followers because they make it impossible. But Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan, anyone can do it. And you make tangible spiritual progress in the association of devotees. Animals, yeah. Lord Chaitanya liberated animals. He liberated trees. You know. So the Lord states that as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is the one and only way to approach the personality of Godhead, one attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In other words, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends on the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. The pseudo-religionists have neither knowledge nor detachment from material affairs, for most of them want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage under the shadow of philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles. Philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles, or they want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage. In other words, you can have, rusty iron shackles, right? Or you can have golden shackles, but they're still shackles, right? There's still iron chains that are tying you up and you can't get free. So what's the difference, golden or iron? You're still a prisoner of birth, death, old age, and disease.
The golden shackles are the result of committing punya, and the iron shackles are the result of committing papa.
Yeah, so both keep you in the material world, punya or sin, or pop. You still stay in the material world. By a false display of religious sentiments, they present a show of devotional service while indulging in all sorts of immoral activities, like smoking marijuana. Om Namo Shivaya Namah. The whole thing is nonsense. There was this one guy in France. His name was Shiva Shambhu. I don't know if I told you this. I've said it before here. And his girlfriend was Durga. And they looked exactly like Shiva and Durga. He walked with a big tree shawl. First of all, he was 6'4", and his hair was all the way down to his ankles, right? Matted hair. And, it was like a hallucination when you saw them. And she looked, she was a very beautiful girl. And she had this long gown. It was white with some gold things on it. And they'd walk down the street. People they'd just look at him, This guy was my friend. He stayed in my house for about 15 days in France. And he was the priest who did the smoking. When it was with me, he didn't do it. But he lived in a cave in the south of France, in the Alps. He lived in a cave. And people would come to the cave. Like, tons of people would come to the cave and give him donations. And then he would have the ceremony of smoking marijuana with them. They'd offer the Lord Shiva. And, if you saw this man, it was like he was really playing the role. He actually thought that he was like some kind of expansion or incarnation of Shiva. Right? So, there is nothing new under the sun. You cannot imagine all the goofy things that go on in this world. You just can't imagine it, but they happen, And this guy was living in that. What happened to him? Eventually, he and his girlfriend broke up, and he got busted for selling marijuana. You see? From that lofty, when they would walk down the street, people would just stare. They couldn't take their eyes off of him. It was like some kind of extraterrestrial apparition, But for what avail? It all, living in the cave and all the glamour and everything, all dissipated. This is all useless labor. I don't know. I haven't seen him for like 30 years, so I don't know what is it. He probably got lung cancer and died. Yeah. Okay, in this way they pass as spiritual masters, there you go, and devotees of God. Such violators of religious principles have no respect for the authoritative acharyas, the holy teachers in the strict disciplic succession. They ignore the Vedic injunction, acharya pasana. One must worship the acharya, or the guru. And Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita 4.2, evam parampara praptam, the supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession. Instead, to mislead the people in general, they themselves become so-called acharyas, but they do not even follow the principles of the acharyas. These rogues are the most dangerous elements in human society because there is no religious government. They escape punishment by the law of the state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita that envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown into the darkest regions of hell. Bhagavad Gita 16:19-20. Sri Isopanisad confirms that these pseudo-religionists are heading toward the most obnoxious place in the universe after the completion of their spiritual master business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification. Ouch. Ouch. So, this is the truth. So, in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a story of a guru who ordered his disciples to make a boat out of concrete. And the day that there was a launch, they were all there in the boat, Guru and the disciples. The boat sank and they all died. And immediately they went to hell. And Yamaraj greeted them. And, obviously the disciples were really upset, right? Because they followed their Guru to hell, right? So, when Yamaraj was interviewing them for their new quarters, the disciples all said, well, wait a minute, this is not fair. He said, what do you mean? Man, we accepted him as our guru. Jai Shri Radha Nilmala Bekiche. Amal Vishnu Bharakshta Vistai Bhuti Vishmati Bhakti Vinata Swami Tinamini. Namaste Sarasati Devi Guru Vani Pacharini Nivrisesa Sunyavani Paskati Rasatari. They said, this is not fair. We accepted him as our guru and we were following him sincerely. So Yamaraj said, well, you're right. This is so, why, how did we know he was a rascal, and he was going to lead us to hell? He said, well, yeah, you're right. He said, so, can we go now? He said, no. So, well, why not? You just said we were right. He said, yeah, you're right. You're in the right place also. Because you accepted him. Therefore, you go with wherever he goes. If he's a rascal, and you accepted a rascal as a guru, and he goes to hell, you go with him. That story's in, yeah. So, you have to be very careful. If you choose one of these pseudo-gurus who are posing themselves as a great religionist, and he goes to hell, you go with him. Yeah. They're all smoking marijuana in hell. In fact, they are the marijuana. They're being smoked. Yeah. Okay, so this is a very severe mantra. It is a very serious message and a lot of information here. We can't exactly go over all of it, but you get the idea. The worshippers of demigods go to the darkest region of ignorance, and worse or more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.